Com.
Hey, what up, though? And we are back. Wake Up Woodward. And you know what? Chat family, as always, you guys are the most important part of this. So go ahead and hit that like button to support the Woo crew. We got to make sure that we are giving love to our teams, especially when they are doing work, Flannel Sam.
Oh, yeah.
I like the pivot there. I like the pivot. Because the Detroit Pistons, over the weekend, they went to Madison Square Garden. And I remember the last time they went to New York, it was not pretty. We were like, please never take the subway ever again. That mojo, we don't need that. That was a brutal game. And we already know how Tibbs does, especially for whatever reason, whenever he sees the Pistons, it's just all red. But 120 to 111, and the story here was Cade Cunningham.
Damn right.
29 points, 15 assists, 10 rebounds, another triple-double, man. Just 3 turnovers on the game, but still 5 of 8 from behind the arc, 6 of 7 from free throw line, 9 to 17 from field goal. So the efficiency was through the roof, man. And somebody else who deserves a shout out to Malik Beasley, 23 points off the bench, man. The 7 of 10 from behind the arc. That's all he made. For the game, he was 7 of 13. So he too was over 500. These guys, man, that connection between Malik Beasley, Cade Cunningham, and what Jaden Ivey's able to give this team as well as that secondary player. You know, he put in 16, 4, and 4, 2 of 6 from behind the arc, 6 of 16 field goal. And I like the way that Jaden Ivey played as well in that final frame. And you know what? The Detroit Pistons, I'm sorry, I forgot to say this at the top of the break. The playoff Pistons, so they're right back in playing position. It wasn't that long. They were out for one game. They went Pistons. Look, bro, they went into a pressure-filled situation, in my opinion. I know Cat didn't play, but still looking for the Pistons, bigs to get going. Jalen Duren, Isaiah Stewart, and whatnot. And they handled business, man. And it looked like Cade Cunningham absolutely relished in that environment. Talk to me about it, Flannel Sam.
Isn't it a rite of passage for a young star player to go into Madison Square Garden and show out? It seems like it's happened with players before him, and it's going to happen with players after him. I mean, we've seen LeBron, we've saw Kobe, the likes of those, even like the Giannis Antetokounmpos of the world, the Luka Doncic's, go into Madison Square Garden and kind of see that as their personal playground to go and put on a show. And of course, Michael Jordan did it a bunch of times back in the day as well. Not saying Cade's on the level of those guys just quite yet, but he's going to be a first-time All-Star this year. And 29, 10, and 15, 5 of 8 from 3, completely dominated that game, was the best player on the court. And I'll tell you what, too, speaking of efficiency, did you know Cade Cunningham shooting 39% from 3 on the season?
I did.
That's pretty damn good. And speaking of three-point efficiency, how about Malik Beasley, man? Malik Beasley being that instant offense off of the bench has been such an impactful signing. 16 points a game this year, 41% from 3, just... When you look at the story of this Pistons season, you could argue that Cade and Malik Beasley have been their 2 most important players. I mean, Malik Beasley is legitimately having a 6-man of the year candidate caliber season. I'm not saying he's going to win it or that he should, but the numbers he's putting up, man, instant offense off the bench that even Vinnie Johnson would be jealous of.
Oh, definitely. And shout out to Malik Beasley. I saw that there was a fan who was trying to ruffle some feathers in the Players Club of all places. Like, that's not the place that you do that. KG, when we were there, we walked through the Players Club and everything. Yeah. That's where literally the players, families, friends, you'll see George Blaha, you'll see Greg Kelser, you'll see Dwayne Casey. You know, as media, we get the opportunity to kind of pass through there after the press conference. And there's fans in there who get that privilege and that opportunity, and they're flicking off Malik Beasley, who's from, his mom is from his.
As soon as they walk by, your first response is just flip Malik Beasley off and say, F you, like, you trash ass player. Well, can you do any better? I don't see you out here on the court. Come on, we pay too much money to sit here and go and see these athletes just to sit here and flip them off whenever we have the opportunity to. Why is this necessary?
Trash after 7 3-pointers is crazy.
That's wild, bro. That's
wild.
Absolutely wild to me. But what up, though, KG, man? These Detroit Pistons are right back in the tied for last play-in spot. Yeah. And you know what? There was a lot of people who thought that they wouldn't fare too well in those games, in that 3-game stretch. People thought they were just going to run off the court, but they didn't. They competed in each one of those games. They found a way to pull out a victory against the Knicks, and the road ahead sets up nicely for them to really move up in the standings.
Yeah, and the Pistons needed that dub in the Garden. I mean, aside from Cat being out, you already know the type of team that this was. You know, being somebody that streams my games illegally, I sometimes have to be subjected to the opposing broadcast, and I had to watch the Knicks broadcast in that one. And the one thing they kept saying is, oh, even though Cat's not playing, we should have more than enough for this, you know, for them to beat this Pistons team, and they just did not, because Cade Cunningham appears like he's taking that step into superstardom. He's now third in the league in terms of triple doubles, man, and he's going out there each and every night and just putting on a show, man. I do not want to hear any more Cade Cunningham slander. His turnovers have been down lately. You know, he's going out there, he's doing the damn thing, but he's also starting to get help. You got Malik Beasley, who is single-handedly saving your bench right now. I mean, single-handedly, because nobody else is doing a damn thing, man. I don't know what the hell is wrong with everybody else, but he's going out there and he's been your most consistent shooter. You're starting to get Tim Hardaway back on track. I thought the game Tobias Harris played was damn good in that game. When he plays well, you got to give him his props, man. So ultimately, JB Bickerstaff, he keeps putting this team in positions to succeed, and they are in a lot of games. Like, I would say probably over 85% of their games they are in. They have not really got blown off the floor too many times this year.
No, and you know what? The one game where it was just like abysmal, and we thought they had an opportunity to go in there and do something against the Milwaukee Bucks, he absolutely said, look, guys, he was like, look, we just got off the plane. I'm like, we got on the plane at 2. We got in at 4:30, and it's ice. He was like, I will take this on my guys. They just didn't have it. Outside of that, you're right. This team has gone out there, and this squad has done what the previous regime has promised that we would get, and that's it didn't happen with them. But with this squad, we see them competing every night, and to the point of right now they're 10-15. They're tied for that last playing spot. They're not too far out of being able to win a couple games and literally take a jump up close to the locked in one of those top 6 spots, that 6th spot. And Cade Cunningham, I'm going to continue to say this. Since he was drafted, he was brought here, and he continues to prove to be the straw that stirs the drink. Whether he's the leading scorer, he's always going to be the leading facilitator, no matter if we bring in another point guard or not. And that's the brilliance of a Cade Cunningham. Some of the downhill action that he was using to get into the paint, you notice he was able to find the shooters much better. And when you have professional shooters like a Malik Beasley, which is why I like his time increasing with him, Malik Beasley knows how to move on the court adjacent to where Cade Cunningham is driving from. A couple times from the left side of the court, Cade was able to cross up his guy, get into the middle, and what does the defense always do? They got to put 2 more. The big, the power forward, or either the wing and the center always collapse, and he was able to find those shooters. When people tell you put shooters around Cade and you got something, this is what they mean. They're in playing position right now, and they don't really even have a post game either way. That's incredible. And their defense is looking good, and it's really, honestly, because of the facilitation, the offense, what they're doing on the offensive side to slow the game down and try to play as efficient as they can. It's helping their defense be a little bit more set, and like KG said, in the right places. That's what JB Bickerstaff has really done. Brought a process that's put this team in the best spots possible, despite some of their weaknesses.
Despite some of their weaknesses, despite some injuries that they've had, you know, despite some stretches of poor play from some. I'm not going to single anybody out, but the reality is at this point in the season, 25 games in, being 10-15, having the final play-in spot, I think before the year I would have taken that. There's obviously some games that we all know that they probably should have won, but they didn't. But that's all right. That's why you have to clean that up. That's why you have to go into Madison Square Garden and win a game where you're not favored and really balance that out. Because as you said, they have a game at Boston coming up, which is going to be tough, but they've got some winnable games. They got a home stretch. They got the West Coast. It's going to be very, very interesting. And QT, M Wolverines in parentheses in the chat. Cade was the best player on the court, including the Knicks.
That is a fact.
Yes, he was.
Jalen Brunson was good. He was not Cade level.
He was
not at all, man.
And for the record, I've got a lot of respect for Jalen Brunson. The way that he's played since he's came to the New York Knicks has really elevated their franchise in a way that I don't even think they envisioned when they got him.
You know who called that early? Sean Murphy. I got to give him Sean Murphy from half court. I got to give him his props on that.
Because he was the only one. Because the Knicks were getting clowned into oblivion for giving Jalen Brunson that kind of a contract. So on a human level, I'm happy for Brunson because he's been phenomenal. But Cade Cunningham one day is going to be objectively better than Jalen Brunson ever was. 100%. Yeah. I have no doubt about that. And that's no shade on Jalen Brunson. That's just how highly I feel about Cade Cunningham.
And Cade just has a better skill set. We got to be real about it. But it was also good to see the Pistons get ahead early and keep their foot on the neck. That's one thing that we haven't seen from this Pistons team this year in terms of them maturing and turning into a team that knows how to close games. They got out early and they kept the foot on the entire time, man.
Bro.
Was able to hold the lead down. So
And learning that within the first 30 games. 'Cause
Yes.
You know me, that's when the assessment period for me. Let's see who they are after 30. If you can show me flashes that you're learning that, think about what the second half of the season is going to be for an actualized all-star Cade Cunningham.
Yeah.
It's not just us saying this. ESPN has stated, and we're going to break that down a little bit more on our Woodward Pistons segment on Wednesday, but they stated that they believe Cade Cunningham will be an all-star this year for the first time.
And
On Team LeBron.
hey,
Yeah.
And at this point, if he continues to play like he's been playing, and of course, if the Pistons continue to at least play about 500 ball or better up until the All-Star break, then it would be an absolute crime for Cade Cunningham to be left off, and there would be no question whatsoever.
You know what the article said, actually? And this is the national narrative. If ESPN is saying it, it is a national narrative because it was a collective of writers. They did state if the Pistons are anywhere within contention for the play-in, Cade Cunningham is going to get his nod.
And I think they will be.
They will be.
The Pistons just have to, going up until the All-Star break and really for the whole season, you gotta take care of business when you can, beat the teams you're supposed to beat, and then every once in a while go into a place like New York and steal one. And for the record, we can talk about how Karl-Anthony Towns being out had a role in the Pistons winning, but that happens all the time in the NBA. Sometimes you're going to catch a team on the road with one of their star players being out, and you got to go in and win, and the Pistons did just that.
Pistons started the season 0-4. They sit 10-15.
Oh.
Think about that record since they started 0-4 and got
that's
things
amazing.
figured out.
That is amazing.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like, you know what? If you're not paying attention to the Pistons right now, it is a good time to tap in. Buy low now. Get in while there's still seats on the bandwagon, because I'm telling you, this team earning a play-in spot, to me, I think is going to hit a whole lot more than when they made it under Blake Griffin and there was no future to what they were doing.
Oh, absolutely.
So get in now. I do believe in what they're doing right now, and a lot of it has to do with what's going on above the players. The coaches and the front office, Trajan Langdon and JB Bickerstaff, Tom Gorse, finally finding the right grouping of people. And just before we get into our Lions conversation, because we got a lot on the way, we got to talk about Teddy Bruschi and his comments on Dan Campbell.
Oh, yeah.
We got to talk about the Vikings they yapping again. Another one, but we're going to get there. But just really quickly, John Henry, are Tigers going to extend the scoop? I thought this was perfect because we talked pregame.
Yeah, we did.
Pregame, pre-show, pregame, whatever.
Tigers ain't
We talked
doing
about
a damn
it.
thing.
But I that's the reason why when I saw this, I was like, man, I got to pin this. He said, are they making any serious moves? They sure jacked up their prices for the coming season. And I just want to say this. Tigers do the right thing by him. But I am happy for Terry Scuba. If you've looked over the last week and a half, that man has just enjoyed himself in the city. He's made himself visible. He's been at the games.
Mm-hmm.
He's been doing things at the Red Wings. He was just over at the Lions game. He's posting stuff on socials with the little home emoji. He's doing everything possible to let you know that he wants to be right here in Detroit.
It's about time.
And I tip my cap to him, man, because a lot has to do with the people here and the fans. A lot has to do with the city and how it's actually coming back. And that's starting to spread out into the outskirts. A lot of people say it's usually just the downtown. There are some outskirts now. They're starting to really be affected. And you know what? So shout out to him for at least making it known.
Yeah,
for at least just putting it out there. Like,
I've been
I'm
waiting
in the
for
city.
that.
I'm right here.
I've been waiting for that because he's been super non-committal up until, this recent point, which I can't necessarily blame him. You don't know what direction this franchise was going, especially when y'all was in the midst of being 10.5 games back. But now that you've made a divisional round, now that you've won a Cy Young with Chris Fedor at the helm, I mean, maybe things are starting to change in his head, and I just hope they can get a deal now.
Yeah, he has not always been, as you said, KG, and I agree. It's not, I don't fault him for that, but he has been more or less non-committal. But lately, it's almost as if Detroit just threw up all over him. It really, no, seriously, it is great to see him at other sporting events and getting all of the love that he should. But like now he's Mr. Detroit.
All right.
Next thing we know, he's going to be wearing a Detroit versus everybody shirt and putting on buffs.
Maybe that's a sign negotiations are going well.
Hey,
maybe
yeah.
that's a sign of that.
When that alert comes across, bro, I am telling you, Detroit, it's going to be party time, man.
Oh, yeah.
Let's get into the Detroit Lions conversation. We got to talk about it. And I know a little bit later on in the week, we're going to talk about this highly anticipated matchup on the way, man.
Oh, yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. But JB, tell us about New Holland and merch.
Oh, definitely.